This is Brooklyn's Alright if you like saxophones, a public access enlightenment showcasing the atoms that make up the wonderful structure that is our reality. Esoteric artists, tuneful conjurers, wise scribes, and record label tastemakers get a few basic questions to let them bring you in on the who, what, how, when. But you know where, because Brooklyn's alright. Welcome to Brooklyn's Alright. I have with me Dean Rispler of Drug Front Records, and we're going to talk to him about his record label. Dean, tell us why and when you started Drug Front Records.
Well, I started it 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago exactly. It's October 2009. Well, that was the first record I put out, was by the Naked Heroes, called 99 Diamond. And I started the label knowing full well that it was the absolute worst time to start a record label. I knew it. I knew that it was going to be a ridiculous struggle, an uphill struggle. I didn't really know it was going to be as hard as I even thought it was going to be. It's way more difficult.
You mean economically?
Economically and also time-wise. I started the label thinking that, oh, I'll just put out these records and then I'll, somehow I'll get distribution and just do a few ads and things will start rolling. But it's if I really if I really put in the right amount of time to make it happen, I wouldn't be here right now. I would be working all day, and I just, unfortunately, I don't have the time for that. I have other jobs to stay afloat in this fine city of ours, which costs a lot of money. But it's rough. It's not easy, but I started it because I'm a producer, work with a ton of bands, and I wanted to put out records by these bands that had no outlet. They had no outlet to get their records out there, and I felt like they deserved more than what they were getting. I'm all for bands putting out their own stuff and making their own fake labels or just putting out their own stuff, but I wanted to do more for them. I wanted to have a stepping stone, a cool boutique label with a limited runs of vinyl that looks cool, that people would want, hopefully, and then have a stepping stone for other bands so they could either go on to another label or just take the reins from there. But it has not been easy. It's really rough. But I made the commitment to do it, so I'm doing it.
Give me some of the examples of why it's not so easy.
Well, no one's buying anything. I mean, I got really lucky. A friend of mine, Jordy Trachtenberg, who's been in the business for many years, he was a very big proponent of me starting my own label. We talked about it for years, and he said, "You got to do your own label. You got to do it." So when I finally did it, he went to bat for me. He got me great distribution through his company, Iota. It's not his company, the company he works for. And so I had great digital distribution. And luckily, Iota, as soon as I signed with Iota, they started their own physical distribution company. So I started working with them, and it goes through Sony. So it's a big distribution deal. The thing is, it doesn't matter. I thought it was going to be like, oh yeah, they'll just put my stuff in stores and help me out. No one's buying anything. No one's buying any records. Like I'm really lucky if with a couple of bands, if when the records come out, I'm really lucky if through mail order they sell like 25, 50 records. I mean, that's a lot for me. Oh. And then and it's rough. It's really rough. It's not easy to do, and I'm still figuring stuff out. I've been in the business for so long, and I'm still figuring stuff out. And I feel like every day things change, and the more I get involved, the less I know.
Really?
Yeah, it's really weird. I've been in the business. I used to work for Go-Kart Records, and all that experience didn't really. It didn't really help. It didn't really help. It didn't really add up to anything. Like everything that I learned at Go-Kart, it's all gone now. Like the only things I really learned that were useful is how to talk to people and try to get them interested in records and stuff. But all those contacts I had are all gone. And
is it because it's a different time?
Oh, it's
or
totally,
just...
yeah. It's also a different time and different technology. And, when I worked for Go Kart, I talked on a daily basis to anywhere between 15 to 20 to, on a daily basis to different fanzines that were out, and now they don't exist.
Right.
They don't. None of these fanzines exist. I still have my old publicity fanzine list, like a contact list, and it has well over 1,500 contacts in there. And it's old, it's from 2001, 2002, the last contact list I had. And I would say, like 10 years later, I would say 98% of those contacts don't exist anymore as someone viable to send your record to.
Right. Wow.
So it's rough, and I mean there's tons of little blogs and tons of cool stuff going on the internet, but it's all a toss-up. It doesn't, not a lot of it means anything anymore.
Right.
So it's rough.
It's a good thing that we do a lot of this stuff because we love it.
Yes, exactly. That's the main reason why I'm doing this.
Right.
I mean, the main reason I'm doing this and committing to it is because I love these bands. I love the kind of music that it is, and I just love records. That's why I'm doing vinyl. I love records. I'm a record collector, or at least used to be, and I'm putting out records for people who feel the same way, that they want this cool product. Not only they want a cool band and the music, and they get this cool product that looks great, and it's something to collect if you're into that kind of stuff.
Very true. Why did you choose the name Drug Front Records?
Well, that was I had that name when I worked for Go Kart. When Greg Ross, the owner of Go Kart, originally had asked me to start my own imprint label through Go Kart, which never came to fruition. That was the first name I came up with, and the reason was I was living in Williamsburg on South 3rd Street, and a lot of areas in New York have little bodegas that are drug fronts, and I was like, oh, that would be so cool to call a label Drug Front Records and make it look like everything like bodega-like. So that's why the website now looks like all these bodegas and all this. So I just thought it was a funny name, and for a lot of labels, it's also true. There's tons of labels and tons of clothing companies that started because of they were a drug front.
Right.
So I thought it was funny, and it's funny because it's been pretty positive, the response.
I was just going to ask you, do you find that the name?
Yeah, the only, my thing is that when I have stuff sent to me, I say, just don't write Drug Front Records on the box. Write DFR on it, or DF Records, DFR, because I don't want my neighbors to be like, what is going on here?
Right.
It's like, it doesn't look good, right? But as far as like the industry is concerned, I've had really positive responses. Like everyone I work with in the distribution and otherwise stores and stuff, whoever I said that they love the name. They're like, that's so cool. It's such a great name. I've had my manufacturer. I have a new manufacturer here in Brooklyn now, and they both came up to me and they go, you have the best. Out of all the labels we've had, this is the best name.
I'm surprised.
Yeah, it's been really good.
Tell me about some of your better, I guess, known or better selling acts on Drug Front.
Well, the two biggest selling acts on Drug Front for me are this band, The Naked Heroes, which is a husband and wife two-piece band who lives here in Brooklyn. They're just a rock and roll duo, really fun, totally fun, amazing live show. The records are all recorded live, even the vocals in the room too, because that's the way they are. They just want to do everything live, and those they work a lot. They play out a lot. They just got back from Spain and Portugal, and there's a second time there, so they sell some records. I have they're pretty easy to sell for because they look cool, and they're all the packaging. The new record that just came out, it's called Demon and Whiskey Down. It's a beautiful package. It's artwork was done by Benjamin Mara, who does Night Business Comics. He owns Traditional Comics. They're a really cool little comic imprint, I don't know, comic book company. And he also got a lot of recognition for doing the incredibly fantastic adventures of Maureen Dowd. So he got a lot of press from that. He did the first album, 99 Diamond, which is pressed on a picture disc. He did the artwork for it, and it looks amazing. And this new record is crazy. It's like looks like something out of Heavy Metal magazine. And the record comes with a comic book about the band.
Oh, nice.
So it's really cool.
Wonderful.
It's really cool, and very excited about that. No, that makes things a little easier to sell. It's such a great package, and the band works, and the band's good. So you know, well, I like all the bands, but that's been easier to sell for me. The other band that moves some stuff is Mini Boom, and they're younger guys from all over. They live here in Brooklyn now, and they're real indie pop stuff. Like I would describe them sort of like if Pavement met Queen.
Really?
Yeah, tons of vocals, and it's like Devo. It's like fun, like Devo, and really high energy. It's like high energy Devo meets Pavement and Queen, like with tons of vocals, and really fun and really good, and great live show too. And they're the hardest out of all the bands on the label. They're really the hardest working ones. Because they're young. They're also young. The youngest. Right. They're all still in their 20s, and they're working, and they're very excited to be a band and go on tour and stuff. So that's been easier to sell. Some of the other stuff, it's harder because they don't work so hard. You know, they're great bands, but they don't work hard. And
right.
A lot of them are, you know, older guys or older people who are, you know, they have families and jobs that you can't just go on tour. And so it's a little harder to sell some of the other stuff, but I still put it out anyway.
Right. What are some of the releases that are your favorites that you just say this is one of the records that just really defines Drug Friend?
Well, I think the second LP I put out was the Candy Snatchers, and the Candy Snatch, and I put that out when I recorded the record in 2008, and then it didn't come out till the beginning of I think 2010, and I produced all their full-length records for the Candy Snatchers, and this record was put out 2 years after Matthew, the guitar player, passed away. So that's like, you know, he was a good friend, and I loved working with those guys. I always did. And as a matter of fact, I'm still working with Larry from the Candy Snatchers as a new band called Born Loose, who I've already recorded a new record for them, and that's being mixed now. But the Candy Snatchers were a big part of me coming on the so-called punk rock map as a producer. So, and I got a lot, you know, from doing work with them. I got more not well known, but more somewhat in my world, somewhat more in demand as a producer because of the kind of records I did with them. Because they were like these full on raging punk rock and roll records, and so that the Candy Snatchers kind of defines what I've been doing for a lot of my professional career. Like you know, this really live sounding, in your face, you know, rock and roll kind of stuff, which I love. So
sounds like kind of like a labor of love that is maybe not paying off, but at least.
Oh, it's definitely not paying off. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, it's definitely not paying off. I'm losing money by the second. There's some days where I feel like, oh, if I just set $10,000 on fire, like, I would at least I'd be able to keep warm. You know, it's like. But that being said, I made the commitment, and I'm not going to give up on it. I do have an expiration date that I said to myself after 2012, if things don't. The idea behind the label is not about making money at all. It's about it just running itself. I don't even care if I lose a little bit. It's just I just don't want to lose. I just don't want to. Not only do I not want to lose a lot of money, I also don't have the room to keep all these records in my house. it's a big storage issue too. So so I made the commitment. I said through 2012 I'm going to keep doing it no matter what. And at the end of 2012, if things aren't sort of better and running itself, or somewhat running it, like I said, it's not about making money. If it's going all right and I'm not losing too much money, then I'll keep it going. But it's just a lot of money and a lot of time commitment that I'm not sure I'm going to have. Because I still work other jobs, so it's a little rough.
So what do you honestly see for the future?
Well, I mean, what I would love to see is some of the bands getting out there and making a splash. It's like at least trying and making a name for themselves and trying to help sell records. And like I said, just seeing it. I would love to have it run itself. I would love to be able to put out records and whatever went into it comes back and it could just go right back to the label. It's fine with me. But I don't know where I'd say. I mean, it would go ultimately. I mean, it would be fantastic if one or two bands kind of took off, and in that kind of world. I'm not looking for bands to be like REM or U2 or something, but it would be exciting if a band was able to break out a little bit and help sell records. And it's not just about selling records. I mean, the reason I did this is to give these bands a stepping stone, like to have them on a label and then go on to other things. I'm not. My labels, I don't keep anyone in contracts. Even if we have a contract, it's about like what's best for the band. Because I don't want to be the bad guy, and I don't want to be the guy who's like, well, now that you're making a splash, you owe me, another record or another 3 records. A lot of these bands, they get screwed with that stuff. We've seen and heard too many of those stories, and this is really an artist label. It's trying to get them ahead.
Wonderful.
Hopefully it'll happen.
Well, Dean, I wish you luck with that.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank Dean Rispler and Drugfront Records for coming on.
Thank you. Thank you, Dan.
Let's take a look at some of Drugfront Records' artists.
Whoa.
let's take a look at some of the bands that are making the rounds.
Demonic, it's not a delusion, it's not a... You're not a nightmare. Standing here, focused. You've got a giant brain.
Thanks for watching. Hope to see you out on the streets of Brooklyn.